Hello, it's Liz Yuille from Old Stables Crafts here for another Simple Stamping Saturday project. So one design done 3 ways, starting with a really straightforward, simple, quick card and then building it up to something more complex. Now along the way I have realised that I actually made a bit of a boo-boo, but I'm going to share it with you anyway. It's fine, it's just not quite what I had intended. Anyway, we are using Be Jolly this morning. So this has got 2 Father Christmases, a sleigh, a lovely little robin, Christmas tree and a star, and then 2 from Be Jolly and a Merry Hello. I'm actually going to be using the Christmas tree. I've seen lots of projects using the Father Christmases, so I thought I would use the Christmas tree. I've also used the robin because I couldn't not really. So I'm going to start with a note card and envelope, basic white note card and envelope. And this is the project that I've already made. I'm going to change it slightly because I want to show you what it looks like in different colours. This used the Brights in colour markers, not in colour, colour markers, Stampin' Write markers. I'm going to use the colours from the 2020 to 2022 in colours, so Cinnamon Cider, Magenta Madness, Just Jade, Bumblebee and Misty Moonlight, just to see what it looks like in a different colourway. The reason I've chosen these is because these are obviously only a 5-pack, so they're a little more affordable, particularly if you're a new stamper. You could use the new in colours, so Evergreen Envy, not Evergreen Envy, Evening Evergreen, Soft Succulent, Polished Pink, Pale Papaya and Fresh Freesia would also be an interesting look, but for this one I'm going to be using these ones. I like that I've got a brown in these. So starting with my note card, here's my score line. I'm going to take my Christmas tree and my Memento Tuxedo Black ink. Now the thing you have to remember with the Memento is that it's great when you're using it with blends because it is a water-based ink. So blends are an alcohol marker, and if you're using alcohol markers you want to do your outline in a watercolour base or a water-based ink. Brain. Be nice if I actually could use it this morning. Be Jolly, and then while I've got my ink pad out I'm going to just do my robin, making sure I know where the flap is. So this is the top, so let's just pop my robin down in the bottom corner. So there's our little robin. So that's all the Memento I need. But what I was saying was you do need to make sure whether you're using blends or other colouring medium, you want to make sure that the ink is fully dry, because what it says on the back is quickly dries on most papers, and it will. So acid-free, fade-resistant, water-based, fast-drying dye ink. When dry, stamped impressions are water-resistant. They're not waterproof, so I certainly wouldn't use Memento if I was doing watercolour. Dries on all paper surfaces, including coated and texture papers. Close lid tightly, blah, blah, blah. So make sure that your ink is dry, which it looks as if it is, before you introduce. I think my battery has actually decided it's being overused and won't now take a charge. So fortunately I have another battery. Okay, so where was I? I have no idea. Oh yes, I was talking about Memento. So yes, make sure it's really dry. And then you can use things like watercolour pencils and a blending pen. And you can use Stampin' Write markers. But I wouldn't use it for actual wet using watercolouring. So I'm going to use my green, which is Just Jade, to colour my tree. And the key when you're colouring with these is to not go over one area too often and to make kind of sweeping strokes, that's the word I'm looking for. But if you go over one area too much, without letting it dry in between, you'll find that the paper will pill, i.e. break down and become kind of more like textile. It's not a good look. But if you go over a couple of times, allowing it to dry in between, you'll get quite a nice smooth colour. And of course the joy with Stampin' Right markers, if you've got a little area that you can't just get into, you can use the ballpoint end. And because it's the same ink coming out at both ends, it will blend in nicely. So that's a bit messy, so what I'm going to do is when that's dry I'll come back and give it another layer. But you can see the Just Jade comes out quite dark on a coloured image with the Stampin' Right marker. I will do a quick comparison in a moment between Just Jade Stampin' Right marker and Just Jade blends. And obviously with blends you've got a light and a dark, so there will be different shades. And the same is true of all of the, oops, went over the edge a bit there, or went into the bauble a bit there. So yeah, the same is true of all of the colours where we have blends. So all I'm going to do now is, starting at the top, is just add another layer of colour. I'm not going to be too worried if I don't get right into the corners, because there is already one layer. So if I miss a layer, it won't be too bad. But as you can see, it's going on much easier the second time. It's a bit like doing a primer coat. The second layer is much smoother, and you are adding more pigment, so it's darker. The same is true of blends. You can layer up the colour, so you get a more solid of that colour. But this is getting rid of any of those nasty brush marks. I'm going to just check the battery. Yeah, I think it is the battery I was using rather than the camera, which is something. Batteries are not cheap to replace, these lithium-ion ones, but they're, you know, they're okay. Whereas a camera, are expensive. So there we are. So that's quite a nice smooth finish. If I bring that up a bit, you can see. And then all we need to do now is add our baubles. So I'm going to do blue, so Misty Moonlight. These are going to be quite dark because these are dark colours. And then Magenta Madness will be fine because it's bright. And Bumblebee will be fine as well. And then we can put Cinnamon Cider on the trunk. And we're basically there, other than colouring a little bit on the robin, just so that we've got some fun on the front of our envelope. Always nice to have a bit of fun. Now, because these are drawn in stripes, I'm colouring them in stripes in the same direction. And I'm not going to bother going over them again, because it doesn't matter if the stripes aren't all the same depth of colour. Now, on my original, I used Poppy Parade. Haven't got Poppy Parade, so I'm going to use Magenta Madness, and I'm going to use the ball tip end just to have a little bit of colour on the front. There we are. So that is our card finished. Let me just find the crease line and then line up the edge of my cards, come in with my trusty bone folder. A bone folder is such a good tool to have. You only ever need one, unless you lose it, but only ever need one. If you get a good bone folder, which ours are, you're good to go. So that is the one that I've just made. This is the one that I made earlier, which is Granny Apple Green. Then my two stepped up versions are this one, and I used Shaded Spruce Light, Poppy Parade, Dark, yep, Daffodil Delight, Soft Suede for the trunk, and Balmy Blue for the baubles. This is stamped in Shaded Spruce, and I also did some blender brush around the tree, for which I cut out a mask. This was white when I started. Just popped it over, coloured it with Balmy Blue, just to give it a bit of something around, and then some of the red rhinestones to spruce it up a bit on our Shaded Spruce card. And then the really stepped up version is this one, and this is the one where I went a bit wrong. What I should have done is have the layers the other way around, so this should have been more, this would have been the same, and then this should have been back, but I didn't, and I thought rather than just chuck it, I would show it to you. It looks fine, and again I've put Shaded Spruce around the back, but this time I've got the sentiment in copper embossing powder, and then I've got little bits on both of these of the gingerbread and peppermint designer series paper, which I have gutted, so this is actually a frame, so I've got this bit down the middle to use on another project. But yeah, now I said I would, oh, and I have done a blends version in the in colours as well, which is a much softer result. This was the light soft just jade. I did say I would show you the colours, so let me take this. What I'm going to do is I'm going to do a blend there. Oh, and what I should say is on this version I used Daffodil Delight for the yellow because there is no bumblebee, so there's no point in me using bumblebee for the blends comparison because there is no bumblebee. So what I'm going to do is pop these down and then show you what the blends look like either side. So, Just Jade. Let's use the brush end. So this is light. This is dark. Cinnamon Cider is next, so light first, then dark, Misty Moonlight light, and dark, and then Magenta Madness light, which is very bright, and dark. Now they do need to dry a little, so let's waft them. A bit of a waft. Right, so the Just Jade, you can see it is the same colour, but it's softer in the blends. The Cinnamon Cider, the dark is very similar. Misty Moonlight, again, the dark is very similar. And Magenta Madness, that one is quite bright. This one is going to, when it's completely dry, be quite close. But you can see that there is a difference, which is why this is a lot darker than this, because this I used the light. Even if I'd used the dark, it would probably have still been lighter than the Stampin' Right marker version. This is still wet, just saying, it's damp to the touch, so it will dry down. But anyway, I hope you found that interesting. Sorry about the gap in the middle. Fortunately, I get an audible signal that the battery has decided to die, so I was aware that it had gone and stopped. Anywho, thank you very much indeed for joining me. I hope you found that interesting. Please give me a thumbs up if you did. If you don't already subscribe, you know what to do. Any questions or comments, do leave those in the comments area below the description bar. I will be back live on Tuesday at 11 o'clock in the morning and Thursday at 3 o'clock in the afternoon UK time. So maybe join me then if you are available to join me then, or of course you can get me on catch up. There will be close-ups and more information about these projects on my website, which is linked below. Have a fantastic Saturday, and I look forward to seeing you again very soon.